set through the Baton Rouge airport to face charges of...
Imagine a father. He finds out what was done to his son. And from that moment on, nothing would ever be the same. He stayed silent. He waited. He planned. And then, in front of the cameras, right in the middle of the airport, he pulled the trigger. Was this murder? Or was this justice delivered by a father who had lost everything? Today we tell the story of Gary Plauché, a real-life case where rage, grief, and justice collide, and force us to ask, what would you do if it were your child? Don't miss stories like this. Subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments, because sometimes justice isn't served in a courtroom. Sometimes people take it into their own hands. Sometimes the biggest storms hide inside the quietest lives. Gary Plauché was born and raised in Louisiana. Just an ordinary man living an ordinary life. He married young, had 4 children, and tried his best to be a good father. But over time, the marriage fell apart. After the separation, Gary fought hard to stay involved in his children's lives. Jody was his youngest, and the one he protected the most. A sweet, quiet, and thoughtful boy. To Gary, Jody wasn't just a son. He was the last real bond he had left in this world. After the divorce, Gary spent his weekends with the kids. And deep down, he knew he had to be more than just a dad. He had to be their anchor. Jody was struggling a bit at school. To help build his confidence, his mother signed him up for karate classes. It felt like a fresh start for Jody, but Gary had no way of knowing that the very place he hoped would help his son would become the place that shattered his entire world. Karate seemed like a good start for Jody. His mother hoped it would bring him discipline. His father just wanted him to feel stronger. Then came Jeff Doucette, a young instructor who stood out. Calm, friendly, and always encouraging. He quickly earned the trust of both students and parents. But that trust would soon turn into something far more dangerous. Doucette started giving Jody special attention. He took him on trips, spent time with him outside of class, sometimes even more than the boy's own family. At first, no one thought anything of it. Jody's mother saw him as a big brother figure. Gary kept his distance. He didn't know Doucette well, but his son seemed happy, and that was enough for him. But behind the scenes, another story was unfolding. Jeff Doucette wasn't just teaching martial arts. He was building control through trust. And tragically, it worked. It was 1984. Just another ordinary day. Jody had gone to his karate class. He was supposed to come home, but he never did. His mother called around to some friends. No one had seen Jody. Then she tried going to where Doucette lived, but there was no trace. Hours passed. Then days. No news of Jody. The family was shattered. Gary wandered like a broken man, not just a father desperate for answers. What had happened to his son? Was he still alive? The police widened their search. Jody's photos were on TV, radio announcements, missing children hotlines, volunteer searches. And then one day, in a motel room, Jody was found. He was thin, his eyes empty, but he was alive. What about Jeff Doucette? He was there too, with the kidnapped boy acting like nothing had happened, but a lot had happened. Doucette had subjected Jody to days of physical and psychological torment, a darkness from which there was no return. Gary had his son back, but he knew nothing would ever be the same. And that day, something inside him broke forever. Jody had been rescued, but a storm was raging inside Gary. Duce had been arrested and the legal process had begun. Yet Gary found it hard to trust the justice system. He wanted to believe his son's pain and trauma would be fully acknowledged, but doubts lingered. Days turned into weeks. A quiet rage grew inside him. He started thinking about taking justice into his own hands. On March 4th, 1984, at Baton Rouge Airport, he waited silently. Fear and determination filled his heart. He knew the moment was coming. In the silence, he stood on the edge of a decision that would change his life forever. March 16th, 1984. Duce was being escorted back to Louisiana for trial. He arrived at Baton Rouge Metropolitan Airport around 9:30 p.m., surrounded by police officers. But that night, there was a man waiting at the airport, Gary Plauché. Wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses to avoid recognition, he was standing by a payphone, talking to his closest friend. A news crew from WBRZ TV was ready to capture Duce's arrival on camera. As Duce walked past the police officers into the terminal, he passed right by Gary. And then it happened. Plauché fired a shot from close range, hitting Duce near his right ear. The bullet caused a severe wound, and Duce fell to the ground, bleeding heavily. Police quickly intervened, restraining Plauché. He dropped the phone receiver, and officers asked him, "Gary, why? Why, Gary?" The incident was recorded live on ENG videotape. Duce later slipped into a coma and died the next day from the gunshot wound. That night, the sharp line between justice and vengeance was drawn once again. Gary Plauché was initially charged with second-degree murder. However, his defense did not contest a plea bargain for voluntary manslaughter. Ultimately, he was sentenced to 7 months of probation, 5 years of supervised release, and 300 hours of community service. It emerged that Duce had abused Jody months before the kidnapping, and psychiatric reports played a significant role in Plauché's case. Psychiatrist Edward P. Uzay testified that Gary had difficulty distinguishing right from wrong and had been driven into a temporary psychotic state. The defense argued that the psychological trauma Gary suffered after learning of his son's abuse influenced his actions. Judge Frank Saya ruled that imprisoning Plauché would not benefit anyone, and that his risk of reoffending was very low. The footage of the incident aired on numerous TV programs and documentaries, garnering over 20 million views. In an interview at age 67, Gary said he did not regret what he did and would do it again. In August 2019, Jody Plauché shared his story in a book titled, "Why Gary, Why?" The case remains a deeply debated story about justice and mercy. Gary Plauché's life was shaped by deep trauma and the storm within. A stroke in 2011 took a physical toll on him, but the battles in his mind lasted much longer. In 2014, just 3 weeks before his 69th birthday, he suffered a second stroke and passed away in a nursing home. His story is not just one of a father's tragedy. It's a reflection of justice, anger, mercy, and the complex boundaries of humanity. The debate continues today. Does a person have the right to deliver their own justice? Was he a hero or a man who defied the law? This story is full of questions without easy answers. But one thing is certain. The mark Gary Plauché left behind will not be forgotten. If stories like these, filled with humanity, justice, and complex emotions, move you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. With every new video, we explore the many faces of justice together. Your support means everything on this journey. Subscribe, comment, and be part of the story.